Now, my question is, why would Chico Twala's gun need to be tested if they were intruders? Why is the judge testifying on behalf of Mangena? He had agreed to this about 6 times before the lunch break. Mangena, come on.
And I'm bad like the Barbie. I'm a doll, but I still wanna party. Things felt like I'm ready to bend. I'm a 10, so I pull an 10. Like Daddy, Stacy, all of the Barbies is pretty. Damn, all of the Barbies is bad.
Hello and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Nogwazi Ndombela, also known as Kwazi Bear on all social media platforms. Do subscribe, be a part of this family, and if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back, darling. Now, as you guys know, every week I put up a weekly analysis in the Senzo Meyiwa Trial, so I'm here to do exactly that. But before we get started, if you are new here, I am a layman. I'm not of legal mind. All the opinions in these videos are based on what I see during the proceedings, and they also based off of my opinion, okay? And then the next thing is that, guys, do share this video so that I do reach a greater audience, and also super thanks if you can, which will help the channel grow financially. So without wasting too much of your time, let us get into this video. On Monday, the 26th of August, we came to court and we were set to continue with the cross-examination of Mangena, the ballistic expert in this case. And when we began, Baloyi updated the exhibits to the court, and then also let the court know that for some reason the transcripts for the 30th of August in 2023, which is when Mangena testified, are missing about an hour of the proceedings, which is like the last hour of the day, which is surprising because, one, this is something that has never happened before, and two, it is shocking that it's actually missing the most important or the most valuable parts of Mangena's evidence, which one speaks about an open seal bag that he took in order to examine the gun and the bullets, and it also really talks about the matching of the gun that Mangena did. So the proceedings were the transcripts were missing an hour of the proceedings, and it was suggested that the court adjourn so that they can get the transcribers to actually transcribe the proceedings again. The judge made sure that he calls everybody and their uncles to court on Monday because he really wanted those transcriptions to be available on Tuesday, and the cross-examination continues on Tuesday. Baloyi then requested that we adjourn until until Wednesday. They would receive the transcript on Tuesday morning, and then the cross-examination continues on Wednesday. And the judge said no to this and said that tomorrow, being the Tuesday, once the transcriptions are ready at 9 o'clock, because they did promise to have them ready by 9 o'clock, once they're ready at 9, he'll give the defense a chance to go through them in the morning, and they will continue with the cross-examination. So that was what happened on Monday. We didn't really sit in. We postponed until Tuesday, where the transcribers would bring the last couple of transcripts from Mangena's testimony. On Tuesday, indeed, the transcripts were made available to the defense, and they required a couple of minutes, about an hour, for them to actually go through them and then begin the cross-examination. The cross-examination by Mngomezulu commenced on Tuesday, the 27th of August, where he really touched on, firstly, the calls that Mangena received in order to go to the scene on the 27th of August, the day after Senzo was shot. And Mangena basically takes us through who called him, when he arrived there, what he did when he got to the scene. Another thing that he does describe is that when he got to the scene, the people had already finished taking the exhibits and everything, and then he just needed to reconstruct. However, they had briefed him that there were 2 shots fired in the house. However, they could only see damage on the door, and Mangena was the one who allegedly saw the damage on the floor and pointed it out to the rest of the forensic team. Another very important thing that Mngomezulu touches on is the fact that the scene was contaminated when Mangena got there, because there is evidence that is before the court that Maggie Piri did clean the scene, and Mangena basically says that the cleaning of the scene doesn't interfere with ballistic evidence, which I found to be very weird. I find it to be very weird, because if Senzo was shot at the scene and all the blood is now wiped off, how can you exactly tell exactly where everything happened? It's just the word of mouth as to how everything happened. And yes, there is the mark on the kitchen floor as well as on the door, which they say explains the shooting of the 2 bullets in the house. However, some of the witnesses in the house, and also Ntabi Singh, who was just outside the Khumalo household, does say that she heard 3 gunshots on the day. As Mngomezulu continues with his cross-examination, he now touches on the aspect that has been on the mouths of everyone this whole week, because according to Ndanzi's evidence in the trial within a trial, Gininda was present at some point at Pretoria North Police Station a day after his arrest, which was the 17th of June. And Gininda and the likes of Mohane and Mohola had blatantly denied this. Now, Mngomezulu gets into the cross-examination of Mangena, and we now find that Mangena was actually one of the people that were at the boardroom on the 17th of June. According to his explanation, he was called by Gininda firstly on the 1st of June to do some measurements on people of interest. So the first call that he got, he says was on the 1st of June, and Gininda basically had asked him to go with him to a police station to do some measurements to tell or to determine whether this certain individual could have been the one responsible for Senzo's shooting, based on his height, his shoulder width, and his length from this elbow to the ground and all that. So this exercise was done on Muzisbiya on the 1st of June, and according to Mangena, on the 17th of June, he received a call from Gininda. Now, this is where it gets so interesting, because when he's leading his evidence, he says he received a call on the 17th. So they move on from the 1st of June and they go to the second incident. Mngomezulu is very specific in saying, okay, on the 17th of June, what happened? And he says, I was called by Gininda to do the same exercise on another person of interest at Pretoria North. He asked me to meet him at Pretoria North. We met at Pretoria North, and then I did these tests on Ubongani Ndanzi. So Mngomezulu then says, are you sure that you were with Gininda at Pretoria North? And Mangena says yes. And he says, where exactly did you meet Mangena on the 17th? And he says, no, we met at Pretoria North. He had called me and said we must meet at Pretoria North. And he says, whereabouts? And he says, we met at one of the offices at first when we got there, and then obviously I went to do the measurements. Then Mngomezulu takes it up a notch and asks, was Gininda present when you were doing the measurements of Ndanzi? And that's where Mangena sort of sounded like he's unsure of his answer. And then he says that he doesn't remember whether he was there when he was taking the measurements. Now, Baloyi objects at this point and says, no, the witness already testified that he was called by Gininda, and he talks about Valeria. And I'm like, no, Baloyi, the witness, we're not talking about the testimony that he made on the 30th of last year. We're talking about today. A few minutes ago, this person confirmed that Gininda had in fact called him, and he had met with Gininda at the police station. Now, straight after that, Mngomezulu then says, okay, no, let me get this straight. I need an answer of yes or no. Was Gininda at Pretoria North on the 17th of June? Are you certain of this? And Mangena says, I cannot answer by saying yes or no. Let me explain. He called me. We got there. I went to go measure Ndanzi, right? And as far as him being there when I was doing the measurements, I can't really recall. And Mngomezulu was like, okay, that's good and well. We went on to the lunch break. After lunch, suddenly Mangena now remembers that, oh, no, Gininda was not in Pretoria North, which left my respect for Mangena out the door. It literally threw it out the door, because I was like, oh no, he's changing his testimony because he knows he's supposed to say that Gininda was not there when he was in fact there, and he had agreed to this about 6 times before the lunch break. Another very interesting thing that Mngomezulu touched on during his cross-examination on Tuesday was the issue of Chico Twala's gun. Now, when Mangena testified, he did say that about 8 days after the incident, he was sent a 9mm gun to test. It came with a license, it came with a magazine, it came with a holster, and he needed to test this gun against the exhibits from the Senzo Meyiwa case. Now, all along, we've been curious as to whose gun this belonged to, and the state basically confirmed that this gun belonged to Chico Twala. Now, my question is, why would Chico Twala's gun need to be tested if they were intruders? What was the reason? It didn't make sense. Why was Chico Twala's gun tested if they were intruders? And Mngomezulu then touches on this and says the only reason why Chico Twala's gun would be involved is because Longwe Twala, who is his son, was at the scene on the day. So I have a version that says on the day of that incident of Senzo Meyiwa shooting, Longwe Twala was in fact the one that shot Senzo by mistake, and there were 3 shots that were fired on the day. The first shot did hit the floor, and Zandi did get hurt on her foot. The second shot, Longwe shot himself on the foot, and the third one, Senzo got shot. But basically, he says that is not the exact order of how the shots happened, but just to summarize everything, there were 3 shots and 3 people were injured. Those were basically the questions for Tuesday, and on Wednesday, the 28th, Mngomezulu continued with his cross-examination, and he then touches on the aspect of the senior police officers that arrived at the scene on the day of the incident. Amongst those were Usbiya, amongst those were the MEC of health or something. So some very high profile people were at the scene on the day of the incident, of which Mangena does confirm that he was told that those people were there, and on the day after there were some other police officers there as well. Mngomezulu continues with his cross-examination, and when he continues with his cross-examination, he then mentions that Longwe, being injured at the scene, was taken to a certain doctor. He mentions that doctor is now late, and that doctor then referred him to another doctor, and there's also a Dr. Mudise who was at Rand Hospital, who was the one who removed the bullet from Longwe's foot. So it is interesting, the version of Mngomezulu that he's putting forward, and he does say that there is a witness that will come and testify to this effect, as well as Makubo, who will come and tell the court that he was called to the scene on the day of the incident about 3 hours later, and when he got to the scene, he clearly said there were no intruders that were in that house. Mngomezulu then completed his cross-examination, and it was over to Ramusipile, the defense counsel for accused number 2, who focused mainly on the aspects of ballistics. He went into great detail about the procedures, the training, and everything. And Dave was sitting behind the defense when Ramusipile started his cross-examination, and you could tell that Dave was taking notes and listening as Mangena was answering, and even passing notes to Ramusipile during the cross-examination. But as the day went on, you could see that he was getting frustrated that he's unable to communicate to Ramusipile in time, and he then moved next to Ramusipile, and he was basically posing questions through Ramusipile to Mangena, which I found absolutely amazing. Whilst Ramusipile was cross-examining Mangena, the judge, as usual, did have a few things to ask or to clarify, and Ramusipile basically told the judge that he is jumping the gun. They were still going to get to those aspects. As I said, Ramusipile's cross-examination was very technical, so I'm not going to get into too much detail about it, but he does literally go into how the grooves are transferred onto the bullets from the gun and all that sort of information. And those were the proceedings for Wednesday. On Thursday, the 29th of August, Ramusipile wrapped up his cross-examination, but before he wrapped up his cross-examination, he also touched on the issue of the 17th of June, where he says, well, during cross-examination of Mngomezulu, you had initially said that Gininda was at the scene, and then later you changed. And as he was putting that across to the witness, the judge is like, no, he already said that he doesn't remember. Why is the judge testifying on behalf of Mangena? Because first of all, he doesn't say that he doesn't remember that Gininda was there. He says he doesn't remember that Gininda was there when he was measuring. But the fact that he was there in Pretoria North, that is a fact. Ramasipili then completes his cross-examination and Mnisi begins his cross-examination. And because the gun was alleged to be belonging to accused number 3, I was expecting Mnisi to bring the fire. But as we all know, Mnisi starts really slow and he builds up in his cross-examination. So that is how he started on Thursday. He basically just lays the foundation of his cross-examination, and then he touches on the issue that ballistic results are subjective, and Mangena then says no, he was objective in this in his test because he didn't know who the guns belong to or who the bullets belong to. And I'm like, Mangena, you're lying, because you're the same person who went himself to go pick up the gun in Cleveland. So you knew exactly what you were doing. You knew exactly what you were testing when you were testing this particular gun. And a point that Mnisi keeps getting at is the fact that science is an art that requires accuracy, efficiency, and consistency. And Mangena does agree to this. And then Mnisi goes to the fact that there are some marks that he shot that were not clear in the results. So how could he have told, or how could he have known that this gun is a match if some of the results or the marks or the transfers onto the bullet are not clear? And another thing that Mnisi kept touching on Thursday is the use of NGA bullets. Now, the explanation that we got of NGA bullets is the new generation ammunition, not bullets, new generation ammunition. It's called NGA. Nisi kept going back to why did you fire these, or what number is the NGA bullets as opposed to the FMJ bullets, and so forth and so forth. And I'm thinking that there's an issue specifically with the NGA bullets because he kept going back to the NGA bullets. Now, the surprising thing that Mangena says with regards to his test shots, firstly, he does state very clearly that he fired 8 shots at the same time and then only tested all of them later on. Now, the interesting thing about these 8 shots, firstly, of the 8, 2 of them were FMJ, which are a full metal jacket. This is the type of bullets that Rulofsa had used to test the gun in the Cleveland case, and Mangena said to the court that he didn't want to use Rulofsa's results because the exhibits that were found at the Senzo Meyiwa crime scene were of a CMJ bullets, which are the complete metal jackets. Now, he says of the 8, he fired 2 full metal jackets just to confirm that this is the same gun. And surprisingly, still, even when he fired the FMJ, some of the marks were there and some were not clear, according to Mangen. But he still concluded that it's the same gun. Now, of the 6 bullets, he said 2 of them were NGA, 2 of them were from another company or manufacturer, and then the other 2 were from another manufacturer. Now, when he's asked, what order did you put these bullets? When you're talking about the NGA, what number? Because you've numbered your bullets from TB3 to TB10. So what number are the NGA bullets? And he says that he didn't check. So my question is, why did you use 6 different CMJ types of bullets if the reasoning was not to compare? Because the reason why you would use 6 CMJ bullets is so that you're able to know that the bullets from the exhibits in the crime scene match these ones based on the manufacturer. But you didn't check the manufacturer, you didn't write down the manufacturer, you just shot them all. So you don't know which one is NGA, you don't know which one is from PMP, you don't know. Mangena, come on. There's no way. Then what were you comparing these things against? Because if you say 6 CMJ bullets, of the 6, which ones come from this manufacturer? You don't know because you didn't write that down. No, I find that very hard to believe. Mind you, I'm finding this hard to believe and I'm not an expert, okay? Anyway, Mnisi then touches on the issue that Mangena had told the court that the people in the house basically could have seen a revolver, but that is probably not the only gun that was at the scene. Now, Mangena says this is based on the fact that he found exhibits at the scene that match 9mm a gun or 9mm bullets. And so Mnisi touches back on that and said, you said that the exhibits were of a 9mm caliber. And he says, no, I didn't say that. I said that the one bullet was of a 9mm. The other one was too badly damaged that I couldn't test, or I couldn't see what caliber it was. So I'm like, Mangena, no, you said exhibits, plural, 2 exhibits. And there were 2 exhibits that were found on the scene. So how could you have said that they are of a 9mm caliber when one of them is so badly damaged that you cannot make up what caliber it's from? You know? So Mangena basically also brings uncertainty to the bullets that were found in the scene, because if this bullet is so badly damaged, why are you denying that it could be from a revolver? That's just my point. Just as Mnisi is about to complete his cross-examination for the day, the judge makes a remark with regards to Mnisi's questioning, and he says that the defense is kicking a dead horse or a dead donkey. Yesterday they did the same. And I'm like, what is up with the judge and these comments? What is he trying to say? That the defense is working on something that they shouldn't be working on, or there's no point in the questions that they're asking? I really don't know. On Friday, which is today, Baloyi handed up a few exhibits before the trial started, and then Mnisi continued with his cross-examination. And the first question of the day was with regards to the open sealed bag. Now, Mnisi had touched on this question yesterday, and it got the judge moving around and making lunch go on very early yesterday. So today he starts with this question with regards to the open seal bag and what is the procedure with regards to exhibits and all that. So the first question is that why is it emphasized that exhibits should be in a closed bag, like in a sealed bag? Instead of answering the question, Mangena says, no, you put exhibits in a sealed bag and then you take them back after testing them. And Mnisi is like, no, I get that. But I mean, why is it imperative for you to put it in a sealed bag? And then he says, do you mean the bags that we take back to the police station? Mangena, why are you acting dumb? Because answer the question, why do you put it in exhibit bags? Regardless of where you're taking this, whether you're at the scene taking exhibits or whether you're from ballistics taking exhibits, the seal bag, why do you put exhibits in a seal bag? And then he finally answers and he says it is to preserve the integrity of the exhibits. That is the answer we've been looking for. And then Mnisi goes on to ask him, is it procedural to take an open bag? And he says, no, procedure says we don't take an open bag. My next question would have been, then why did you take an open bag in this case? Mangen, why? But Mnisi doesn't go into that. He then makes an example about why is it that firstly he asked the question about why is it that Mangena felt that he needed 4 people to verify his test, and Mangena says it's just it's dependent on cases. So Mnisi makes an example to say, so if a case is not a high profile case, you just require 1 person, which means you don't follow the same procedures for all your cases. And he confirms that, yeah, for high profile cases, you just really want to make sure that you've got the right information. Mnisi then puts it to Mangena that the reason why he needed 4 people to check his work is because the results were inconclusive. They were not clear. The marks were not fully transferred onto the bullets, and their expert, which is Dave, will come and tell the court. He is not an expert, so he's not really in a position to explain it in detail as Dave would, but he will tell the court that the results that he got were inconclusive, which means that he couldn't fully admit that this is the gun that was actually used at the Senzo Meyiwa crime scene. Another thing that is very important that Mnisi touches on is the non-consistency of the shooting that Mangena did. He says that the reason why you needed to test it so many times is because you weren't finding consistent transfers from the gun to the bullets. And Mangena does agree to this, but then the judge asks a clarifying question to say, are you saying inconsistency or uniformity? And I'm just like, no, judge, he said inconsistent, and he's right in saying inconsistent, because Mangena himself is saying that, you know, some marks are clear, some marks are not clear. So what makes Mangena be so positive when the marks are inconsistent? Because they are clearly inconsistent. Whether they, if marks are darker and marks are lighter on this thing, those marks are inconsistent because they're not telling you the same thing. That's just my opinion. Nisi then wants to take Mangena through an exercise where he points out specifically where the matches he found are on the bullets. However, this is a bit of a challenging task to do for Mangena, so they do take a short adjournment, which turned out to be a long adjournment. And when they return from the adjournment, Nisi comes back with tools that he had bought during the adjournment just to assist in getting Mangena to point out exactly where he found his matches. They then took a decision to adjourn for today because Mangena, they requested Mangena to actually do a table where he's able to tell that this is point A on the exhibit bullets and this is point A on the test bullets, and that's where I found a match. So this will then take time, and Mangena will be back to do that exercise on Monday. The judge then says that usually he waits for the cross-examination to finish before he actually requests certain things, but he is requesting that the 4 people that confirmed Mangena's test be called into the court. It is brought to our attention that one of them is retired. I don't know whether they'll be calling him from retirement to come and testify, but the judge definitely wants the people that confirmed Mangena's tests, because it's proving to be quite an issue. And my thing is, I was asking myself, does the judge want these people to come because he wants it to be 5 against 1 with the defense's ballistic expert, or does he want them to come because he's uncertain of Mangena's testimony? That is just some of the questions that I was asking myself. Those were the proceedings for the week. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.